The internet feels infinite, an endless maze of information, entertainment, and connection. But hidden in its dark corners are places that are just creepy. Strange websites that vanish without a trace, messages from the dead that shouldn't exist, and online communities obsessed with solving the unsolvable. Today, we're getting into some creepy internet rabbit holes. And before we begin, if you enjoy exploring these strange corners of the internet with me, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps more than you know. Let's begin. Jack Froese emails. Jack was born on December 15th, 1978 in Scranton, Pennsylvania, son of Jack and Patty Froese. Jack grew up in Dunmore. He was a 1998 graduate of Dunmore High School. He received his associates from Luzerne County Community College in record and sound engineering. Jack's personality was bigger than life. He always had some sarcastic comeback for anything anyone had to say. He could make you laugh even on your worst day. He loved spending time with his kids, watching them grow and learn. He also loved spending time with his family and friends, especially Michelle. Jack was also into tattoos, both getting and collecting tattoo artwork. Each one had a special meaning to him, and there was a reason for him having each one. Jack had an immense passion for music from the time he was little. He was a founding member of the band Strength for a Reason, with his bandmates Ray Brower and Scrap. He loved to write and play new songs, especially for his kids. He also loved working on and building motorcycles, as well as riding them. It was where he felt most at peace. He was also one of the founding members of the Baseball Furries stunt team. Jack had a love for all animals, having various pets throughout his life. And at 32 years old, on June 10th, 2011, Jack passed away in his home due to a heart attack. His death was very untimely, and everyone around him was grief-stricken. His parents, children, partner. Eventually, life kept going on as usual. They slowly began to move on, and eventually, they began returning to their normal lives. Until about 5 months later, when Tim Hart, Jack's best friend, received an email from him. One night in November, I was sitting on my couch, going through my emails on my phone, and it popped up. Sender, Jack Froese. I turned ghost white when I read it. It was very quick and short, but to a point that only Jack and I could relate on. Inside the email was the message, "Did you hear me? I'm at your house. Clean your effing attic." Before Froese died, Hart said the two of them had been alone in Hart's attic, talking about what to do with the space. "Just he and I up there," Hart said. "That's it." Usually when people receive emails from the dead, it's a hacker trying to scam grieving loved ones out of their hard-earned money, but here, this just didn't seem to be the case. Firstly, there was no ulterior motive to the email. There was no link to click, no phone number to call, nothing which could, possibly exploit anyone. Secondly, the subject of the email was supposed to be about something entirely private, which Jack and Tim had discussed while nobody else was around. They had also argued about this fact not long before Jack's heart attack, that the attic had to be cleaned. While Jack could have told someone about the attic, he had no reason to, and who would he tell? That would end up going and writing an email to his best friend, completely tripping the poor guy up. More importantly, this theory doesn't really fit, seeing as nobody had access to Jack's email account. Nobody knew the login or password. Tim did reply to the email, but received no response at all. Another possibility is that Jack could have scheduled the email to be sent, except this is ruled out when you look at the second email Jack sent. "How you doing? I knew you were going to break your ankle. Try to warn you. Gotta be careful. Tell Rock for me. Great song, huh? You're welcome." Couldn't get through to him. His email didn't work. Jimmy McGraw, Jack's cousin, received this email not long after Tim got his. While before this theory of a scheduled message fit, it doesn't anymore. And the mystery gets even creepier when you find out that Jimmy broke his ankle 1 week before the email was sent. This was an event after Jack's death, so unless he was psychic, there's no way he could have scheduled an email like that. He also said that he tried to reach out to someone else, except their email didn't work. McGraw also said that barely anybody saw or knew that his ankle was broken, at least nobody who would do anything like this, or even had access to Jack's email. 2 other friends received emails, and while they never publicly stated what the emails were about, they did mention that the contents were similar to Tim's email, that it was based on something only Jack and the recipient knew. This means that even if someone had access to Jack's email, they'd need to know about not only one, but 3 entirely different private conversations, which just doesn't add up. This started picking up a little mainstream media coverage, but due to the lack of facts and just how mysterious things were, it wasn't a huge story. And possibly, most importantly, Jack's family probably didn't want so much media attention only 5 months after his untimely death. McGraw eventually did say that the emails brought him some comfort. When people asked Froese's mother, Patty, if she was behind them, she reportedly said, "Think what you want about it, or accept it as a gift." Unfortunately, no technical details about the emails were revealed, such as the headers and the IP addresses, so it is difficult to find a conclusive answer on who actually sent them, but there are a few theories. The first and most obvious is that the account was compromised. Millions of accounts are hacked every day, and ABC also noted a similar case where a bereaved daughter was receiving spam from her late mother because her account was compromised. There are a few nags though. First of all, the attic reference, which was a conversation just between Froese and his friend, and also the very recent knee injury reference would mean that someone very close to Froese must have hacked it. Someone that close would probably not do something like that, just out of basic respect, and it would have definitely been in very poor taste as well. Such a prank usually is for attention. For example, spam for service, but there are no follow-up emails or even advertisements, so this theory is a little hard to believe. Another possible explanation is that the emails were pre-scheduled to be sent after his death by Froese himself, but we've kind of already got into why that's implausible, but let's entertain this theory because it's, one of the only ones. Some services do allow their clients to send emails at a specific time, or if they don't log in for a set amount of time, known as a dead man switch. However, this theory is even more implausible, like we went over. Froese possibly could not have anticipated his death as he died suddenly of a heart attack at just 32 years old, and there's no evidence that he even used a service like that. Critically, he references the ankle, which is something that happened after his death, so it is really hard to believe that Froese predicted or even anticipated such an event and managed to time it perfectly. Like, that's just completely implausible. And finally, there is the paranormal explanation that Froese is sending these emails from beyond the grave, or that he somehow survived his death. The timing is kind of eerie, and the family did describe it as comforting, but this theory is the least possible out of all of them, obviously. In the end, what we do know is that these emails were really sent. It's not BS. Multiple credible news sites like the BBC and ABC networks confirmed them. However, no proof of the emails were ever revealed, such as screenshots, no forensic data was found, or at least revealed to the public. No one has ever publicly come out to say that they were behind it either, so this case and rabbit hole still remains unsolved, but it's just really, really creepy. Ghostnet. A sophisticated cyber espionage network haunted the world in early 2009, where almost 1,300 computers were infected across 103 countries, almost half of the networks infected being governmental agencies, such as the Indian Embassy in the United States. This situation was brought to light by the Information Warfare Monitor, or IWM for short, which was an advanced research activity tracking the emergence of cyberspace as a strategic domain. It was active between 2003 to 2012 and was a public-private venture based out of Canada. The IWM found 1,295 computers hacked in 103 countries, with most of targeted attacks being against high-value entities, including, but not limited to, the embassies of India, South Korea, Indonesia, Romania, Cyprus, Malta, Thailand, Taiwan, Portugal, Germany, and Pakistan, foreign ministries of Iran, Bangladesh, Latvia, Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei, Barbados, Bhutan, Dalai Lama's offices in Dharamsala, London, and New York. Although, at the time, major global superpowers, the UK and US, were not infiltrated. One NATO computer was under their control and was being monitored for half a day. A 10-month-long investigation took place, uncovering evidence that the entire operation was headed from China. Yet it wasn't clear whether or not the Chinese government were involved at all. It all began in late 2007. An underground Trojan tool known as Ghost Rat, and a couple other remote access tools were circulated in the online black market and were being used in prior, smaller scale intrusions. Hackers would gain access to these symptoms using a patterned attack with a combination of the Trojan tool and social engineering. Social engineering is literally exploiting humans mentally, trying to convince them into doing something. The easiest and most famous example would be scam calls, of scammers trying to convince people to send money to them through methods of deceit. It's a type of attack that relies on human psychology and deception rather than technical exploits. This is one of the emails which was used to infiltrate a computer system. It read, "Dear Sir, attached, please find the final Tibetan translation of my English announcement for the Kalan Tripa Succession Initiative. Response to my press release on September 2nd has been very positive, and I've been receiving lots of emails and phone messages from Tibetans everywhere. I'm trying to get someone to translate the Kalan Tripa Hochi into English, but if you already have translated it, please send it to me. Any advice from you in this initiative of mine would be greatly appreciated. Yours sincerely, Pema Rinson, President, TAC." This email had an attachment which contained malware. When downloaded and opened, the malware would then gain control and infect your computer. The social engineering aspect can be seen as written in the email, which on the face of it seems to be nothing but a simple, innocent request to review a translated announcement. It was between the months of June 2008 to March 2009 that the IWM conducted a field investigation after IWM researchers found that the Dalai Lama's computer network had been infiltrated. The investigative report was publicly released at the end of March 2009, reporting the findings of 1,300 computers infected in the staggering 103 countries which had seen infection. This caused the University of Cambridge's computer laboratory to publish their own technical report, in which they outlined certain ties to Chinese state intelligence, alleging that it was agents of the Chinese government who began the attacks, starting with the initial attack of the office of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. The People's Republic of China responded, officially denying any and all state responsibility, calling all the allegations baseless, with a spokesman for the Chinese consulate in New York dismissed the idea that China was involved. "These are old stories and they are nonsense," the spokesman, Wenqi Gao, said. "The Chinese government is opposed to and strictly forbids any cybercrime." Eventually, Ghostnet was wiped out, but it was one of the earliest large-scale cyber attacks ever. It was the first of its kind. It targeted cyber espionage, which ended up bringing huge concerns to cybersecurity, research into remote access tools, detection software, as well as how to spot and protect against social engineering attempts. It also brought huge concern against the Chinese government. As much as they may deny involvement, we really may never know the truth. In 2011, the Canadian government traced breaches in their system back to Chinese IP addresses, which emphasized the issue of Chinese hackers, whether state-funded or private hackers. Ghostnet was more than an elaborate espionage scheme. It ended up setting a statement that hackers could and did access sensitive diplomatic communications, harvest intelligence, and God forbid they had worse intentions in mind, things could have been a lot worse. This ended up leading to these organizations implementing greater hardening of target community systems, broader use of endpoint detection, and incident response at embassies and NGOs, and heightened government attention to cross-border cyber threats. The Cambridge report said the same thing, although while the conclusion had been reached without substantive proof, the circumstantial evidence is damning. In this note, we described how agents of the Chinese government comprise the computing infrastructure of the office of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. They used social phishing to install root kits on a number of machines and then downloaded sensitive data. People in Tibet may have died as a result. It's not entirely clear how many casualties may have been caused by the hack, but it is definite that serious harm was caused, as the best weapon against anyone is information. The compromise was detected and dealt with, but its implications are sobering. It shows how difficult it is to defend sensitive information against an opponent who uses social engineering techniques to install malware. We have described this social malware attack here and considered its consequences. Although the attack we describe in this case study came from a major government, the techniques their agents used are available even to private individuals and are quite shockingly effective. Social engineering is still used today, and it's extremely harmful to those who aren't aware of how these attacks take place, as there's no real antivirus against psychological warfare. As absurd as it may sound, calling these attacks psychological warfare, it's unfortunate that it's an apt description. Now, with the exponential rise of AI, social engineering attacks will be even harder to detect and be aware of. To this day, it's entirely unclear who is behind Ghostnet specifically. Please, everyone watching, be safe out there with who you trust with your information. Paranoia.com. On February 28, 1994, a domain was registered with the name Paranoia.com. Today, this domain redirects to Disney, which is very confusing considering just how disturbing the contents of the original website was. It was initially run by an Austin resident who went by the pseudonym Kevin TX and was one of the earliest free speech, low-cost hosting spaces on the internet. It covered various topics, some controversial, some not much, but the website did give a friendly disclaimer on what the site actually is about. Your fair warning. Some people might consider some of the things here offensive. Well, besides the fact that those people are repressed and lack adequate ways of dealing with the guilt trips they've been giving themselves since those first prepubescent doubts. Part of my right to be offensive is their right to just move on. Take advantage of this right at your leisure, smiley face. The website was very open and vocal about its issues, and at the time, it was very, very popular. The website explained how it ran and why outages might be common. Paranoia.com originates from a Linux server with 40 megabytes RAM on our own T1 connection, using/recommending the full-featured Apache-free HTTPD and with a near-perfect online attendance record since June 1994, and then goes on to some mumbo-jumbo. Viva la Linux. Routine maintenance, extremely heavy traffic, routing screw-ups, and other technical difficulties. Rare on our server itself, but sometimes a tough fact of life on the net. Might impede your access at times. But please try again later. God and Paranoia supporters willing. We are here to stay. The record high scores for 1 week statistics on Paranoia.com, not including virtual servers, are 1,659,974 successful transfers, accesses, and in a different week, visitors from 166,000 unique IP addresses. The pages and links on this server are continually under construction. Even Austin's Highway 71 and 183 are finished. In the early days, I kept up with all the media sightings on this server, but there have just been way too many. I've heard about 75 plus paranoia sightings in major magazines and newspapers worldwide, recently the New York Times front page, several television shows, and more. I'd still enjoy hearing about any particularly interesting sightings. Send detailed reports to me at his email. The website had also won awards from local papers and magazines for being so popular, and the site was visited over 30,000 times every week. While now that may be a low number compared to other sites, it was insanely popular for its time, especially with barely any advertising or methods of natural reach. The Austin Chronicle gave Paranoia an honorable mention. The Chronicle's own site won, and Best of Austin 96 for Best Local Website, annual enormous readers poll. Who knows? More people may know that Paranoia is an Austin website and got out to vote for us in 97. Each winner gets a giant outdoor banner, and I'll find a good way to display mine digitally if Paranoia is given the honor. Give Texas Monthly Magazine hell for reviewing the top 100 Texas websites in August and only ranking Paranoia number 50. Sheesh. Their only mission was to fight censorship and protect their rights, highlighting unconstitutional laws, rulings, or anything that went after their free speech. When they took the Fourth Amendment, I was quiet because I didn't deal drugs. When they took the Sixth Amendment, I was quiet because I was innocent. When they took the Second Amendment, I was quiet because I didn't own a gun. Now they've taken the First Amendment, and I can say nothing about it. On their homepage, they openly advertised links, some of which were tame while others were pretty provocative at the time. Here's quick access to some local highlights: minor threat, banned from the internet, why Christians suck, irrelevant and loving it, California wine touring guides, and then some electronics repair, and then some erotic websites, the World's Guest Guide, the Church of Euthanasia, Garden of Dutch Cannabis, or our drug information server. So a vast array of stuff. And if you've made it this far into the page, you might want to get a few pointers on dealing with your lousy job. Read about government access to encryption keys, just say no. Watch the mindless horde react to the big scary internet. Visit 24 Hours of Democracy, free speech on the internet. Check out what some net gorillas want to do about censorship. See a concise guide to the Clinton scandals, now quite out of date. Find out about Paranoia's unique internet access, or even visit our silly little art gallery. These links being plastered on the front page of the website was sort of a middle finger to the government trying to suppress their free speech, some of which were a little much looking back. If we go back and take a look at just a handful of the sites advertised, it makes more sense. A page supporting the Unabomber, who was an anarchist sending bombs by mail in 1966, the Church of Euthanasia. This website is all about the endorsement of euthanization, and as it's clearly said on their front page, they're all for S-word, A-word, cannibalism, and imitas. While the jury's still out on actual euthanasia, A-word, and even today, the scary part is the S-word and cannibalism. They advertised dirty films. I can't say the actual word of the films because YouTube doesn't like that. And they just advertised films and articles of dirty. I think you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'd suggest you just don't go looking for answers beyond the fact that it's a type of film, oftentimes defined as being produced for profit or financial gain, that shows or purports to show scenes of actual homicide. So, not good stuff. The titles of some of these articles are very disturbing to read, and I'm not going to read every single one, but just a few examples are Eating Fetus in China, Church News, Confessions of a Heretic, My S-Word Watch, and the other names are just horrific. And they even explain how to cook a human body. And this seems to be the slippery slope a lot of these free speech websites take. And like I said, they even explain how to cook a human body and quote, "This is a step-by-step guide on how to break down the human body from the full figure into serviceable choice cuts of meat." It goes into disgusting detail on how to cook humans. Apart from this, there were also web pages supporting several types of substances on paranoia.com, though today that's pretty commonplace, even on Reddit. Eventually, the website disappeared quietly around the early 2000s, and now, for unknown reasons, the website redirects to Disney, a company who is known for being hyper family friendly and obviously a huge company. There is a possible reason as to why this might be the case. Firstly, in 2000, Fox Family Channel aired a live game show called Paranoia, where initially the website was Excite Paranoia. In October of 2001, Disney bought Fox and potentially bought paranoia.com to protect their brand, as any supporter of the show looking for more may stumble upon the original paranoia.com and potentially be traumatized for life. Disney has had a weird history of keeping domains just to protect their brand name. But then again, they never released a statement on this or even addressed this in the slightest, so we really don't know why paranoia.com goes to Disney. And maybe there's more to it than we think. 973 EHT NAMUH 973, or the human backward. The beautiful thing about the internet is that anybody, as long as they can host it, can put their work out there for everyone to see, free of cost to the visitor. Things like Wikipedia have revolutionized access to knowledge to the world and continues to do so. Of course, more esoteric pages exist, pages that are not meant to be read by everyone or cannot be understood by everyone. One such website is 973 EHT NAMUH 973, an intricate web of over 9,000 interconnected pages that cover a wide range of topics such as art, math, poetry, and philosophy. You might have noticed that the domain name reverses to spell out the human, which will make more sense later as we cover the actual content. Unlike Wikipedia, which has a central structure split into categories and pages to make navigation easy, this website is put together extremely bafflingly. Whether it was intentional or not, it is more of a maze than a library, with many of the pages linking to each other. Before we get into what the site actually contains, we should look at the site's official forum, hosted on the same domain. Newcomers and experienced people alike discuss the many puzzles on the site and try to find the meaning between the cryptic work. Let's look at what Redbeck, one of the most prominent members in the community, has to say about what the site is all about. So, a brief introduction to the essence of the site, although we recommend that the reader initially explore what is a vast repository of creative information alone. This is not a university degree course with tutors and attendants to gather a collection of your own experiences and identify what areas interest you most. You will be embarking on what is a long but fruitful journey, I assure you, and hopefully one which will expand both your inner and observational wisdom and lead to a change in your perception of life and show how we as a humankind can collectively help to save the world from its current predicament before it is too late. This hopefully enlightened personal change covers a plethora of topics from spiritual to creative art and literature, sociological and philanthropic, saving the natural world and habitable environments, sociocracy to capitalistic dictatorship, climate science, which form the ingredients of the current predicament. And so, turning the page, 973 EHT NAMUH 973 is a knowledge collection, exchange, and transference site designed to reinvigorate the activity of learning, which hopefully will lead visitors to the site onto alternate positive thought and therefore action paths that in turn will motivate them to access and participate in a universal mind of the greater good for humankind. Universal mind being an amalgamation of enlightened intellectual resource that will hopefully help restore the world we inhabit into a better place on every level for all inhabitants of planet Earth. One might call it a scholarly, but nonetheless pragmatic push toward establishing an even-handed and philanthropic world government as far removed from the ideology of capitalism as it can possibly get, approved by humanity, not self-serving politicians, a body that will eventually, under the stewardship of states persons of powerful positive intellect, possessing sane and compassionate minds with an impeccable moral compass, completely devoid of ego or obsession with either power or money, hopefully fashion a quality of life for all. A quality of life and law that will dismiss a prevailing rampantly capitalistic self-centered society into history, voiding its gluttonous appetite for precious elementary raw material that is systematically destroying the human race, sharing resources dominated by a minority like water, forest, grassland, and agriculture produced to establish global balance and well-being. You will also note that within this vehicle for positive global change, that transportation of language into number is vitally important to the process. The resulting numeric patterns that already appear within our work, as well as future decoding, are highly tuned sensory indicators of the stress and crash points in our world that require addressing with great urgency in order to prevent the whole socio-political system under which we presently exist sliding off the edge of a cliff into chaos. Along with this, we believe that the creative arts in all forms are hugely influential in a more joyful movement for change that will help revive a flagging world and rejuvenate a rapidly, and sadly so, declining grasp of spirituality and humanity. Above all, the greatest ambition is to stimulate alternative thought processes among the 973 community that could eventually result in action plans for the greater good of humankind. What I would add is the newly arrived should enter the site with a free spirit, unencumbered by preconception, and while you might not find an exhaustive list of answers that you are searching for in one huge explosion of light, the candle of knowledge will burn brighter until it becomes a candelabra of beeswax candles, and you will most certainly receive some of those answers. But don't give up. Keep at it, as the founder, creator, and content architect of the site, David Dennison, is constantly adding new material. And indeed, figures strongly in the alpha to numeric transposition system, which is the foundation stone of 973, which assigns Sanguru the ultimate power number 9, where the number 9 can be spreader of either intense light or repressive darkness. It would seem apt to add the words of the highly influential Italian educator, physician, and writer on scientific pedagogy, Maria Tecla Artemisia Montessori, to this profound chain of thought. We cannot create observers by saying observe, but by giving them the power and the means for this observation, and these means are procured through education of the senses. And wow, that was a lot. And after listening to that, you might now understand that this website is actually serious and is not some joke art project made by a student. There is an active community contributing to the site, and they have some lofty goals they want to achieve. So, who is the man who started it all? The site's founder is David Dennison, a prison officer by day and a surrealist artist all the time. He is the primary author and the architect behind it all, and is inspired by people like Hieronymus Bosch. The site is rich in references to art history and blends surrealist motifs with textual puzzles. The main philosophy behind it is the idea of universal mind, which is an ideal of interconnected intelligence and shared wisdom. It opposes the idea of individualism, urging people to let go of materialistic values and come together for collective problem solving and spiritual awakening. This message is hidden behind a layer of cryptic puzzles shown through surrealist art and poetry. The site makes extensive use of a practice called gematria, which is from numerology. Basically, numbers are assigned special meanings and strings of numbers combined to form philosophical and religious texts hidden behind a cipher. It is the most well-known to be used in Hebrew scriptures, where letters are assigned numbers individually and the meanings of words are found from combining these numbers instead of the phonetic meaning. In this website, numbers are used to convey spiritual and philosophical meanings, especially the numbers 9, 7, and 3, which are used in the domain name itself. 9 represents the sun/God, 7 is the earth/light, and 3 is the moon/dark. These numbers, along with their meanings, are used widely across a vast variety of cultures in their religion and philosophy. The concept of hell and its figures such as Lucifer are discussed extensively on the site. As the site claims to explore the deeper, darker aspects of the spiritual journey, with lengthy debates on rebellion and pride and the nature of evil. In sections like the Grand Gallery and Alchemy Archive, new content is published every day. Most of the site is unsolved, and some of it is not meant to be solved either, and are left open-ended. According to Dennison, the site is also not fully finished, which means there's a lot more to discover, and a loyal community dedicated to learning and sharing their interpretations remains active. The forum, called the Oracle Forum, is not just about the site, but also contains users debating philosophy on numerology and various other world religions. Most believe that the site is intended to promote an alternative thought process and often spend a lot of their time decoding and interpreting the puzzles. Some forum members even claim that those who are deeply engaged in the site experience a heightened spiritual awareness and even physical changes as a result of its teachings. Crazy stuff. Celebrity number 6. In 2020, a Reddit user from Finland, Tonsta H, posted to the subreddit r/tip of my tongue about a set of curtains. They were made by their grandmother, who purchased the fabric sometime in 2008, and on that fabric were a set of 8 figures repeating in black or blue. Tonsta H needed help figure out who they were, and sure enough, the sleuths on Reddit found out that they were Josh Holloway, Jessica Alba, Travis Fimmel, Ian Somberhalder, Orlando Bloom, and Adriana Lima, who was repeated twice. They were most probably designed in software like Adobe Illustrator from photographs and printed onto the fabric. You might have noticed that I only named 7 of them when they were supposed to be 8. That is because on the faces, celebrity number 6 could not be identified. Each of the reference photos were found for the others, but people could not agree on the gender for number 6. It quickly became a huge internet mystery, especially because the others were so famous and easily recognizable, but nobody could figure out who celebrity number 6 was. Tonsta H posted to 15 different subreddits and eventually made one just for this, named r/celebrity number 6, which today has a huge 135,000 members, which really shows how many people were invested in it. Some focused on potential figures that were famous around the same time that the other actors were at their peak, with the most suggested answers being Olivia Wilde of House or Taylor Kitsch of Friday Night Lights. While they were plausible, no one could find the original reference photo. One particularly dedicated Redditor went through every single photo on Getty Images that shared a photographer with the other actors' photos from 1998 to 2008. Sadly, there was no match in there. Then they tried to track down the origins of the curtain itself, and they found that it came from the Finnish department store, Antilia, from its summer 2009 catalog, supplied by Latky Mraz from the Czech Republic. When asked, Latky Mraz could not provide the name of the designer. People also tried reverse image searching of both the original and slightly modified ones they advertised across Reddit, hoping to randomly find one person who could identify it and search the Wayback Machine to get information from the seller websites. The idea that struck gold was attempting to reverse the process that turned the actual pictures of the celebrities into monochrome. Reddit user Stephen Morse tried this method and managed to create a colored photograph and then ran it through PimEyes, which is a facial recognition website that searches the web for all images of a person on the web given a sample. An interesting side note, Stephen Morris said that he didn't use AI at all and was actually hindering him. In his words, it doesn't help with and just slows down the search. Obviously, the reverse coloring process was not perfect and PimEyes returned many results. 7 of them, however, were for a woman called Leticia Sarda, a Spanish model. One member of the subreddit, r/celebrity number 6, Indigo Room, was also a Spaniard, so he contacted the original photographer, Leonardo Escorcel, who had shot this photo for a 2006 Tendencias, meaning trends, part of the Spanish magazine Woman. Escorcel recognized the photo and said that he took it himself and was actually angry that someone had used that image in the print for the curtain without his permission. Apparently, he had never posted on the internet, so was shocked that someone managed to find the original. This is probably why the designer chose to stay anonymous, as they apparently had used the photo without proper permission. Some moderators disagreed with this conclusion though, saying that it was falsified and there was a major controversy on the subreddit about this. According to user Jebus Christ, one mod called him, Indigo Room, a liar and went on a mentally unstable tirade trying to prove the picture was AI because the buttons on her jacket were different colors and other various reasons. That mod also moderated the Stable Diffusion, an AI image creator model, as well, so he thought himself an expert. So, in order to prove Indigo Room right, another Redditor from Croatia contacted Leticia herself via LinkedIn. She confirmed that she was the one in the photo and even posted herself holding a copy of the original image to prove it once and for all. The moderator resigned. Leticia, born in 1980, had quit modeling at just 29 years old because her grandmother had fallen ill and had returned to Santa Cruz in the Canary Islands. People were surprised to find a relatively unknown Spanish model next to all of these huge movie stars and celebrities. Some said that she might have been confused for Evangeline Lilly of the TV show Lost. She modeled with Ian Somerhalder, who was also part of Lost. When people found it was her, she was working as a waitress at a cafe, living a quiet life with my children, my little house, and my little job. According to her, she was initially a little frightened, as the Redditor who was the first to ask her said, "Are you aware that there are 50,000 people who have been looking for you for 5 years?" She didn't use Reddit or LinkedIn at all, only Facebook and Instagram to stay in touch with friends, so she couldn't see the people trying to contact her, and after a while she was found. People on the street would walk up to her and recognize her as well. In the end, she hosted an AMA on the subreddit where she said that after the initial shock, she was having fun with her discovering her fame and thanked them all for changing her life. She sold prints of the original photo and now models for the Spanish fashion label 7 Rooms on Instagram. The subreddit is now officially closed. After the mystery was solved, but solving these kinds of low-stakes mysteries has now become something a participant sport, according to journalist Caitlin Dewey. The moderators opened another subreddit called r/monthly mysteries, dedicated to them. And even though this wasn't a creepy internet rabbit hole, so to say, I thought this was just a very classic internet rabbit hole, and it's crazy what people online can figure out when 50,000 people go looking to solve it. Super interesting, and sorry it wasn't as creepy as a lot of you may have hoped for that last one, but I thought the Jack Froese emails was terrifying, Ghostnet was creepy, Paranoia.com was creepy. What do you think was the creepiest one in this video? What was your favorite case? What was your least favorite case? And what would you like to see changed in the future? I appreciate watching to the end. It means the world. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Check out other videos on the channel. And this is Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye.